the collaboration between KWAP and UiTM also fulfilled at least two of our core values, which is continuous learning and innovation, as well as excellence and achievement. So I think well done to both. Certainly, thought leadership in the industry and in academics really play a pivotal role in ensuring that we grow and progressive to be a great organization in the future. Right. With that, we've come to the second part of the program where I would like to invite the panelists, Dr. Norazliani Matlazam, as well as Encik Saiful Azril Ishaq, to the stage where they will begin a forum and on insight into actuarial management. Dipersilakan. I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists. On my left, we have here Dr. Norazliani Matlazam, affectionately known as Dr. Yan, whom is the head of department, Center for Actuarial Studies, UiTM Shah Alam. She has been with UiTM for over 10 years, and before that, she was the senior market analyst for Etika Takaful Berhad. 10 years, so over 20 years of working experience in the industry. So she is really the expert subject matter. All right. And to her left, we have Encik Saiful Azril Ishaq, senior lecturer, again at UiTM Shah Alam, over 12 years, in which 4 years he spent overseeing the risk management and policies for the university. So again, another subject matter expert. And before that, he was with Takaful Malaysia in the pricing department for 2 years, right? And I'm myself, Syed Wafa, from Corporate Affairs KWAP. I've had about 20 years also experience in various industry, oil and gas, finance, as well as corporate communication. Right, so today's topic is an insight into actuarial management. So can I ask Dr. Yan, before we begin to deep dive into the topic, right? Can you maybe explain to us about Actuarial Sciences Center at UiTM?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Wafa, Cik Wafa, and also to the CEO of KWAP, Puan Syed Hamada, the COO of KWAP, Cik Nik Fauzan, and also all the KWAP staff, and not to forget from UiTM representatives. We have here with us today the Deputy Dean of Research and Industrial Linkages, Professor Madya Dr. Marina Yusof, also Deputy Dean of Academic, Dr. Fuzia Ishaq, and also other representatives from the Center for Actuarial Studies. Okay, to get back to your question just now, first of all, let me introduce something about the center, our center, Actuarial Science Center. Kata tak kenal maka tak cinta. Alright. Historically, our center was established in as early as 1966. So at that time, under the name of SMAC, Actuarial Science, Statistics, Mathematics, Econometrics, and Cybernetics. And at that time, we were handling all the professional papers. We don't have our own program. We are handling all the external papers. Basically, we are focusing on managing the professional exams from the Institute of Actuaries UK. And then later on, in 1968, we started to introduce our program, our very own program, Diploma in Actuarial Science. Okay. And then years later, in 1996, upon the announcement made by the former PM at that time, that upgrade the status from ITM to UiTM. So concurrently, we changed our name to Faculty of Information Technology and Quantitative Sciences, and we started to offer a degree program because the university level we can offer the degree program, yeah. And at that time, we were the first university in Malaysia to offer that actuarial science degree program in Malaysia. Okay, then baru ada UKM, and now USIM. Okay, fast forward. Currently, our faculty's name has changed again to Faculty of Computer and Mathematical Sciences. And we are offering a broad program of actuarial sciences, ranging from diploma to the PhD level. And then let me share some joyous moment from the center. Okay, from the academic development, we have seen a big growth from only having 10 students who are doing their degree in actuarial science in 1996. Now we have about almost 600 students. And then from only having a undergraduate program, now we have a postgraduate program up to the PhD level. And we look into the actuarial growth, professional growth. Last year, this is going to be, a prominent milestone to us. We have received accreditation from the Institute Faculty of Actuaries of granting us 5 exemption professional papers, meaning that those students who enroll in our program, if they follow, they meet certain requirements, certain achievement, then once they graduate, they can have these 5 exemptions, right? So when to talk about the students itself, okay, our students is normally, I would say, the sought after graduates in the industry, because most of them are receiving the best award, the best student awards from the vice chancellor during their convocation ceremonies, and most of them are now being employed by the leading employers in Malaysia, like Bank Negara, KWAP. There's one student from UiTM here. Okay, Petronas, Actuarial Partners, and many leaders in the banking and insurance sectors. And their our students' graduate employability stands at 80% consistently, at least at 80%. Graduate employability means they are getting their job within 6 months after they graduate. So I think that's all for now.
Thank you, Dr. Yan. Seems like UiTM, especially the faculty, has undergone quite a tremendous growth over 54 years now to where it is. So congratulations. That's quite impressive. Having said that, many of us are wondering, what is actually actuarial science? I come from an arts background. I'm a law student and all that. So when it comes to mathematics and statistics, I go, oh my God, it's tough. I know I work in a financial institution, but, the mere mention of mathematics frightens quite a lot of us. Perhaps, Encik Saiful, you would like to maybe tell us a little bit more about actuarial science?
Thank you, Mr. Wafa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to Tuan Syed, Encik Nick, and also representative from UiTM and also KWAP. Interesting questions. So when you say actuarial science, sometimes people just got confused, then you need to tell it in Malay, science actuary. And they still got confused that what's that? Right? So some people they try to link actuarial science with aquatic or agriculture, something that quite relate with the letter A. So eventually is a combination of several disciplines. Yeah, so we have the mathematics, statistics, finance, economy, some logical thinking. Nowadays, they need the computer programming skills. So we combine everything, then you get actuarial science, basically. Yeah. So in terms of specialization, so we have actuaries that specialize in life insurance, meaning general insurance, pensions and social securities, risk management, finance and investment. Yeah. So it is more applied rather than theoretical. So that's why, like Dr. Yan said just now, most of the actual students, they are highly sought after because they have the real world application, basically. Because what we learn in the universities is I would say 60%, most of it will be used in the actual world, especially in the insurance and also in banking sectors.
Yeah. Thank you, Encik Saiful, for that clarification. Now I feel I know a little bit more about actuarial science and how important the subject in terms of helping organization and financial institutions like KWAP in managing their risks as well as sustain their returns effectively. Seeing how important this industry is there any professional body that governs or regulate the industry?
Yes, there are few professional bodies. Yeah, we have the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries UK, yeah, the Society of Actuaries in the US. Yeah, there are professional bodies from Australia, Canada. So these are all professional bodies that that overseeing the actuarial profession. So for Malaysia, we have the Actuarial Society in Malaysia, yeah, that overseeing the actuarial profession in Malaysia. However, these professional bodies, they are the one who actually certify the actuaries. Yeah. So either to become an actuary, either you can take exams directly from the professional bodies, or you can enroll to any university program, like UiTM, which we have mutual agreement with the professional bodies where we get certain exemption for some of the professional exams. Yeah. So it's like a shortcut. Yeah. So mostly if you want to, because for UK itself, we have to become a fully qualified actuary, you need to pass at least 12 exams.
Oh.
I don't know, the fastest would be how many years, one?
How many? A very long time.
Yeah.
It's a very, so
So dia macam tak habis-habis lah. Macam saya ada 2 lagi tak ambil.
I see. So it's tougher than, let's say, qualifying for a doctor or an architect.
Because you
Can I make that assumption? I mean, for the audience perspective, maybe you can explain. I mean, the toughness in comparison to, because we all know that being a doctor is tough, especially when you apply for a specialist position, right? I mean, is that the length of time required to study and qualify? Is it as tough? Maybe can we compare it that way?
Dia macam ni lah. For the professional exam, on average, fail. Right? Yeah. On average, memang gagal lah. Then the best part is, for professional bodies ni, normally, I don't know lah. This from what I know for accountancy, they have the score for those who get 80 to 90, 90 to 100. So these are all top students. But for the UK itself, you just pass or fail. But for fail, they have 4 categories of fail. You have the FA, meaning that you are 5% lagi nak lulus.
I see.
FB, 5 to 10% lagi nak lulus.
So a bit of a carrot lah.
So the lulus is lulus lah. You don't know lah, you score A ke B ke, but fail tu.
The fail pun ada grade.
So ada grade untuk fail lah.
Okay,
So itu yang interesting part lah.
So the passing is just pass.
Passing
so they tell you how much you need to do in order to pass, or maybe not continue.
So you know lah. Okay,
They assess all the failures.
I see.
Lagi
Failures
5% je nak
assessed.
lulus. Kat mana pun tak tahu.
Okay, all right.
Something like that.
Thank you. So it sounds very tough. Maybe Dr. Yan, if you could also explain to us the role of actuary, especially in a pension institution like KWAP.
Right, good
Seeing
question.
how important it is, yeah.
Yeah, good question, Cik Wafa. Okay, generally the roles of actuaries are to assess and to analyze the financial cost of risk and uncertainty. And they also help businesses and clients to develop policies which aim to minimize the risk. Okay, so specifically in the pension field, like KWAP, we do have a pension actuary. So what does pension actuary do? Basically, the roles of the pension actuary in the pension company is to advise on the pension funding. Mainly, they are looking at the sustainability and the solvency position of the pension fund, where they are, at any point of time, they are making sure that assets must be always greater than liability, right? So besides that, they also perform the actuarial valuation, of which they are estimating the future liabilities and also the future cost of benefits. Okay. They also making some recommendations to the management on the appropriate investment strategies. This may involve the study on the volatility rate of the cash flow to match the assets and liability. Okay, this is important. And also to know whether, the likelihood of achieving those strategies. Okay. Besides that, pension actually also involved in modeling the pension funding. So in modeling the pension funding, there are some other risks associated to it, because in order for you to derive to the pension model, you need the input from demography, from the government and whatnot. So they improve the risk in the demography, inflation risk, investment risk, and also the government risk. Okay, so to sum up, pension actuaries may help the pension company to look at the sustainability and also whether they can pay the benefit as it is due in the future, and also to make recommendations, as I said earlier, and to monitor the actual evaluations, and at the same time to be involved in the communications with the stakeholders.
All right, Dr. Yan. Seems there's a lot going on there. I mean, to ensure the sustainability of asset versus liability. That's kind of heavy. I mean, how does it relate to our retirement plan and our retirement funds in KWAP? Because how we operate is maybe slightly different than, say, an insurance company. Dr. Yan, maybe you can elaborate.
Okay, in terms of the life insurance, it may be different with KWAP because life insurance, their problem is when the person died.
Okay.
Unlike the pension. Pension, your problem will appear when the person still alive. See? So that's the contradiction of these two organizations. But when you stay into the health insurance, it supports the KWAP because as the persons tend to live longer, the health insurance need to be involved in the coverage of the policyholders as well.
Are you saying that for KWAP, if the pensioner lives longer, it poses a greater challenge for us? Is that one way? That's one way of
Nampak
saying it,
kejam.
right?
It looks like cruel that you want them to
Or should we say
Yeah,
it helps
the
us to
reflex.
better plan to ensure our liability is met? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Just so that we are
Because,
clear. Yeah. All right. Moving on to Encik Saiful. You mentioned just now that actuarial science actually help manage risks. I think for JKA and our colleagues from risk, this probably is the exciting part of the forum. Maybe you could elaborate how actual studies could also help our team members in risk department manage our risks.
JK, I think he's the expert in risk management. So, because like Dr. Yan said, mostly actuaries involved in managing risk. So we know risk is about uncertainty. Yeah. So first and foremost, we need to check what are the things that we are uncertain, especially for the organization. For example, like you said just now, we are uncertain about our future liability. We are uncertain about how long the pensioners will live. Yeah. We are uncertain about the inflation rate. Yeah. We are uncertain about our investment risk, for example, talking about matching the duration, matching the asset and liabilities. These are all sorts of risks that related to basically our policies and organization. However, from the perspective of risk, I think the first and foremost, we need to be able to distinguish between the risk and problem. So risk basically is a potential problem. Yeah. So when we want to assess the risk, we need to be able to distinguish between these two. Because if it's a problem, then you need to solve it. If it's risk, then we have time to do a proper risk management. That's the process of identification. We assess, then we mitigate, and we clearly can communicate. Yeah. For example, like problem, contoh macam pintu tu rosak is a problem. It needs to be fixed. Kalau kita kata pintu tu akan rosak, then that's a risk. Yeah. So it's a simple punya.
So can I say that the job of an actuary is to be able to predict when the pintu is going to be rosak, or is that what is that? I'm
Yeah.
you have to remember I'm not a math so I need to make sense of what you're saying. Yeah, is that one way of saying it?
The probability.
Yeah, probability. All right.
I changed the pintu into nyawa manusia lah.
Yeah.
So for example, dulu those days, when I was a student, so bila I jumpa orang, macam orang tanya buat apa, cakap I buat actuarial science. So dia pun tanya apa itu actuarial science. I pun nak tahu nak explain macam mana. So I cakap I kira bila orang mati lah. Kira bila orang mati lah. So this one is my friend's punya mother lah. She full time housewife and kita pun duduk kat kampung lah, so semua pun tak tahu. So the next semester I came back and kita pun lepak-lepak the house, and when she saw me, she said, Saiful, you tengok makcik ni bila makcik mati ya?
Tak nujung.
Difficult question to answer kan. So kita pun cakap, ni tengok macam ada nujum sikit, lama lagi ni. So actually, it's more. Kalau example is managing risk for example, for life expectancy or mortality for human life. So that is more I think related to insurance and also for the pension itself.
So it goes back to the question for us whether the longer a pensioner lives, whether we are able to meet and manage the risk better in order to meet our liabilities lah. Is that right? Okay. Right. Can, as mentioned earlier, is there a way we could maybe determine what are the current issues that the pension system face these days? I mean, apart from pensioners living longer because they're healthier. I mean, Dr. Yan, perhaps, apart from the issue of longevity, right, facing pension funds, what are the other issues what are the other burning issues that keeps you guys awake at night and keeps our risk department as well as our strategy and our portfolio? I mean, what are those issues that I think we should know about?
Okay. Sebenarnya, I mean, longevity is still the crucial part, okay, to be solved in the pension area, pension field, okay.
So
Because
basically for us, the shorter it is, the better. Then.
yeah, because so now the current phenomenon, I mean, is longevity. Okay, longevity you can look from two different perspectives. From one perspective, it is a positive side. It shows the well-being, the social standing of the community, where people nowadays are living much healthier and longer as compared to the previous generations. And the contributing factors may be due to the increase in the socio-economic status, the technological advancement in the medical and also the healthcare, the improvement in diet and nutrition. Semua orang now eat clean. Awareness of the healthy lifestyle, jogging, hiking, cycling, sekarang cycling, right? Okay, so this promote the longevity. But from another perspective, that not so good. Okay, this will threaten the organizations like KWAP, as I mentioned earlier, and also the health insurance, because KWAP, they need to be mindful of reserving their liabilities to meet the pension benefits in the future. Because kalau dulu, they tend to, reserve some money up to the age of 70 maybe. Now they need to consider, this person may be alive until the age of 80. So they need a buffer of money to be reserved. And for the healthcare insurance pula, kalau dulu, okay, as we know, as they going old, kan, they might be visiting the hospitals frequently. So if let's say dulu the price of the insurance that they priced earlier is only to cover for the expenses for 10 years, let's say, now for 20 years. So there must be an appropriate of finding a new strategy to price their product lah.
Product.
Okay.
I see. Okay. And Sapu, do you want to add anything from Ampati on the other issues that are pressing to the industry?
I think talking about issues maybe on the investment side. I think talking about matching assets with liabilities. So we talk about like what just Dr. Yan said about longevity. So meaning the term of liability is very long. So looking for the natural hedge. So looking for type of investment that we can actually match into of the durations, into of the timing of the liabilities might pose difficult. So eventually we eventually exposing the organization into mismatching risk. Apart from that, I think in terms of guaranteed benefit, guaranteed benefit. So meaning, for example, like for DB defined benefit, if the government servant reach certain number of months, so they get their pension amount. Maybe the max is at 60%. So whether that pose threat to KWAP or maybe some other some other guarantees, for example, like the health guarantees. Yeah? So we you pay for the dialysis, for those who get diabetic, or maybe the span of paying pension to the spouse and also children. Yeah, maybe to the extent of maybe some of the issues maybe.
Joint life kan.
Mm.
So macam pension, when the pensioner dies, the spouse will get it.
Mm.
Okay, and then katalah the spouse. So maksud it's a long term punya obligation, and then the children under the 18 of age pun kena dapat juga. So
I
long
think
term.
just to maybe add to your punya issues tadi tu, there's an old English saying which says that people live longer when they know there's money for them to live on. Is there a difference between civil servant pensioners in terms of their longevity and mortality rate compared to those yang under defined contribution yang, once the money run out, what's going to happen, right? I mean, do they live long? Do government pensioners live longer than, say, me in the future? Because, I need to start planning here. Or rather, we should start planning.
Okay, I would say yes, in my personal opinion, because now, I mean, for the DC, the defined contributions punya pekerja, when they retire at certain age, memanglah they got the money one lump sum, then yeah, they are rich at that time. But if they don't manage the money wisely, past 10 years, normally memang ramai pun after 10 years dah tak ada kan. But unlike the pensioners, okay, I think they will have a peace of mind, okay. Tak kisahlah MCO ke apa ke, dah tua ni, bangun tidur, I mean every month they will get the pension. On top of that, sakit. So makin tua makin sakit. They can easily go to the hospital for I mean, it's I think sponsored by the government kan. So with that peace of mind, I think will lead to their long life.
I see. That's great news for pensioners. Not so great for us who are on the EPF punya scale. But having said that, I think one of the other issues that I was thinking as both Dr. Yan and Chisafu were explaining, macam for pensioners, right? I mean, let's say someone in the 80s retired and maybe the pension is 1,000 ringgit. But this 1,000 ringgit payment of pension 30 years from now, it's still maybe about 1,000 and a bit, right? I mean, 1,000 ringgit and a bit in 2020, it's a bit of a stretch, I mean, is that real issues that pensioners as well as organizations like us need to start thinking in terms of addressing this sufficiency in retirement?
Actually, that's the risk posed by the pensioners. Yeah. Or maybe for some insurance industry, you will say that they can sell inflation index for annuity, for example. So meaning the amount of pension that they receive will inflate according to the inflations. But for pensioners, yeah. So let's say like just now you said, if it's 1,000 in the 90, it's not the same as 1,000 in the year 2020. Yeah. So that is risk posed by the pensioners. So talking about reasonable expectation, from the pensioners' point of view, of course they can check up it's not enough lah. They will ask for more, and so if they ask for more, so what should the pension sponsor actually can do to help them? Yeah, because why? Because they are not running out of money. They still have the money, but it's not sufficient. Unlike those from EPF, they might run out of money lah. And let's say they say, for example, like data from the Bangladesh Statistics, they say that for the study from 2017 to 2019, so male might live up to 72.2, whereas female up to 77.
Female lives longer.
So there's
You know why?
Alhamdulillah.
I have something to say about it, but I don't think the ladies will be pleased.
Tapi the thing is that is for the general population, so it doesn't mean it is true for the pensioners. So I think maybe we can perform some studies to prove the hypothesis whether the general population punya life expectancy whether it's the same with the pensioners.
I see. So in a way, with your help, you can help KWAP manage and sustain relevancy? I mean, in terms of the data, I mean, how do you think you can help KWAP sustain and remain relevant, especially with this regards to this data? Okay?
So, likewise, in order for KWAP not remain relevant lah, meaning I think the best is
Be ahead of the curve.
ahead of
Yeah,
thing.
ahead of the curve. Sorry,
Yeah.
my apologies.
So I think it's more about making informed decisions. Yeah, I think mostly because like us, like UiTM, we also need to communicate with the KPM, etc. I think the same goes with KWAP. So what we need is information. Yeah, what we need is information. So information is vital. So it should come from whatever data available that we have. Yeah. So if we have the data, we can process the data, and we can, like, Cik Wafa, you from statistics background, right? So making sense of data, right?
From law.
Law, sorry. Yeah.
Make
So
sense of words.
make sense of word, but from sets, they need to make sense of data.
I
So
see.
using this, I think this approach, I think we can help to, we can help to do the analysis, everything, but eventually to communicate this, is the organization itself.
It's up to us, yeah. So
Yeah.
so you provide the data, and then we provide the data. You process it, and then we verbalize it to our stakeholders.
But of course, in term, if the process requires information. So what kind of processes that is required? For example, let's say you want to convince the government, for example, to not to increase the retirement age.
Right.
Yeah, for example. So what sort of data information that can be used in order for it?
Okay, all right. This is something that I've just thought as before I went to sleep last night. I was thinking, we in KWAP we have a lot of data. We get the data. We work with maybe other organization. How accurate must this data gathering be? Is there any allowable margin for error? Maybe Dr. Yan, you can explain, or is that why projection needs to be done a lot of time?
To have an accurate projection, okay, because projection is very crucial, okay, in determining the future punya benefits and whatnot. I mean, because data is dynamic, okay, every day keeps changing. So it is a need to have a regular projection of data, okay. And then talking about the data, we need more data, okay. So in order for us to do the projection, more data must be gathered from the source lah. Because if let's say the data is not sufficient, unreliable, so it will dampen the process of getting the results.
I see.
Can I add?
Sure.
Yeah. So talking about dulu lah, statistics, you make inference of data. So meaning you don't have the population data, you have the small set of data. You use that sample to make inference about the whole population. But with now you have the big data, you have lots of data. And so the data eventually they can show the true colors of whatever the population actually. Dulu dia based on sampling. And you tak dapat the whole data, you use sample, then you kata this sample represent the whole thing.
So meaning to say, in this day and age, with the availability of big data, more uncertainty can be mitigated in making predictions. So it should be more accurate moving forward if those data is made available to you, right? So in that sense, Mr. Saiful, maybe you could tell us whether or not with this capability, can KWAP meet pensioners' expectation and needs?
I think it depends on who's the stakeholders, right? Yeah. So who's the stakeholders, whether it's pensioners or the government itself. Yeah. So I think both pose pose their role in meeting their expectations. And for the government, of course, they say they want to cut budget and they want to increase their retirement.
I think the prevalent sentiment in the industry and elsewhere since the pandemic is cutting budget. Right?
Cutting budget.
So how can we convince them that, because in order to make certain things work, I mean, we're not just saying that we need resources, but we also need maybe studies or research. Is that why we're here now? I mean, this collaboration, maybe you can elaborate.
Because that's the issue. Why we need to answer the why. Why the government want to, for example, increase the retirement age? Why people tend to live longer than expected? What makes the pensioners happy? Of course, the money lah.
Expectation from the pensioner lah.
Kan?
Ada increment in the pension. So,
I see.
kena tengok
So
dua sides.
dia balance lah. I think from my opinion lah, because I'm also a government servant, you need to strike a balance. Let's say if you want to change the current pension system, for example. So kalau saya, from my perspective, saya kena tengok lah what's the benefit for me. And so whether my pension will increase or not, or whether I need to contribute some portion of my pay to the new pension pot ke apa ke. And so I need to check, because eventually if, for example lah, if I need to chip in some money, so I'm exposing myself to investment risk pula. Kan, kalau tidak dulu saya tak be exposed. It's the government. I already transfer my risk to the government.
Tak kisah.
Kan, saya tak ada apa-apa. So currently bila I have to chip in money, eventually I pula exposed pada investment risk. Sudah saya pula kena fikir, ini untung ke rugi ke, untung rugi patut investment department yang fikir kan, ni saya pula kena fikir as individu. And so it depends on whose perspective kan, whose expectation, whether it's the government expectation or is the pensioners expectation. Yeah, I think that's my opinion.
Okay, all right. Before we go to the Q&A session, there's one last point that we want to discuss. Dr. Yan, maybe you could talk to us about future study of the Actuarial Science Center in UiTM involving any project or research that's related to pension.
Okay, let me share you. Yes, every semester we have a batch of final year students who will be doing their final year projects. Okay, as this is a partial fulfillment for them to obtain their degree in actuarial science. Okay, so most of their topics are related to mortality, longevity, and health issues. Okay, and this I think is very much related to KWAP lah. Okay, and we have, normally on average every semester we have about 20 projects being produced by them. Okay, and those who are outstanding projects are being published in the index journal. And today with us at the booth outside, we brought some projects by our students that related to pension. And okay, as the academician, okay, we are also actively involved in doing research because research is part of our KPI since our boss is here, the research punya boss. Okay, so we do need to present and then to publish our papers in the conference and also in the published journal. And we do have experts in actuarial studies and mortality studies as well.
Okay,
so that's how we do research on pension.
I see. So it is mutually beneficial for KWAP also to have this collaboration.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the data, you have the models, the solution, right? So I believe it is beneficial for both to work together in order to have real result, right? I'm quite happy that we are now working together. Before we end the session, there is maybe an opportunity for the audience to ask a question or two. There's a there's a code here that you can post your question. I think the QR code. But if the audience would like to have a burning question, please let us know and introduce yourself. Any questions? I have asked all the questions. Oh, Cik Ismail has a question.
Doktor, saya when we talk about actuarial knowledge ni, my perspective is that our perception is only applied by institutions. It's being applied by pension funds or being practiced insurance companies. How do we apply this knowledge at individual level in our day-to-day life? The knowledge of actuarial science, how can we apply? Sebab dia very alien punya subject kan. Kalau accounting people something that we apply on day-to-day basis, nak kira budget, gaji, belanja semua kan. So there's a knowledge of accounting over there. Tapi knowledge of actuarial science macam ni you apply in your, is there any way how we can apply in our day-to-day life as an individual bukan as institution?
Saya cuba dulu ya. I don't know, I'm looking this from the perspective of my children lah, anak saya. Okay, mungkin actual science closely related to finance juga. Okay, so when it comes to the expenses, monthly expenses, and then how I'm going to pay for the house, for the car. Okay, and then ditanya I, macam mana mama dapat duit? Is it sufficient for you to pay semua? So that is how I relate with the actual punya study lah. Macam mana mama tahu budget ini semua-semua. So that is how I educate them. I mean, I instill them the knowledge of actuarial in the daily life, because I think for the individual, maybe we can look from their daily routines. I mean their expenses, their obligations, finance kan. Tu je lah yang I nampak.
I think because actually science compromise of several discipline kan, macam-macam disiplin ada tu. And so I think because of banyak sangat disiplin, so we have to think lots, banyak benda nak kena fikir, from different perspective. I think basically it can help individual, I think dari segi thinking process. So meaning orang cerita think out of the box kan, from one perspective you think out of the box. Normally actuary tu, or those yang belajar actuary, they think of other people punya box juga. Sebab dia busy body sikit, dia kena fikir orang lain punya box juga, sebab that box tu mungkin ada implication pada dia. So apart from his own box, outside the box ada people's box pun dia. Busy body sikit lah. So that is sort of like macam kita kata analytical thinking ke apalah kan. But I think that bagi saya lah from my experience, I think itu adalah something yang I normally apply to myself. And so when kita jumpa orang ke apa ke, is not only our box, outside the box, some other people punya box pun kita ada fikir juga. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have time for one more question? Or okay, one more from Cik Nazar.
Assalamualaikum. First of all, thank you for the insightful briefing session. I find it very useful for me. I have a couple of questions, so your views will not be held against you. You mentioned earlier about defined benefit. Okay. Just wonder what you think about the government moving into a DC kind of scheme. Because you mentioned you are also pensioners eventually.
Yeah.
So whether there's a time for us to look into DC. That's my first question. Secondly, you mentioned about modelling. So how extensive is the modelling aspect of the learning experience when it's applied? Modelling. So I just want to know how extensive, what models did you use? Is it developed internally? You rely on purely Excel ke, programming ke? Just so that I understand how you get into modelling. Those are the questions. Thank you.
Maybe to this, whether we are ready or not. I'm not ready because I'm not a pensioner. So those yang pension mungkin dia dah ready because they are not exposed to this kind of risk. So like I mentioned just now, from my perspective, so I am as a government servant, so of course I don't want to chip in money because eventually what happens is I'm exposing myself to investment risk. And sebab kalau kita baca pun banyak failures dekat US apa semua because of this investment kan. Tiba-tiba once they reach the retirement age, company pun bungkus apa semua, so pension pot jatuh, so dia punya pension pun hilang apa semua. And so from my perspective, of course I don't want to be exposed to this kind of risk. But I think from the government perspective, yes, because there are several issues that has been highlighted. But to convince me to enroll into DC, for example, so kena ada something kan, win-win situation. And you naikkan gaji saya ke, and so let's say you want me to chip in 3%, so it's a separate pot ke apa ke. I think that dia ada balance lah.
Dia ada from two perspectives lah. Okay, from the government side, I would say that they prefer to have a DC because bukanlah nak terlepas tangan. Okay, they just this is you carum duit and then how after retire this is the money that you get. Tapi from the perspective of the pensioners itself, they will feel more secured. They have a DB. Okay, dan kita pun tahu sekarang ni banyak yang macam GLCs, macam LHDN, so semua tu macam I think there are issues that they want to revert to DB from DC sebab from their experiences of yang mana DC ni lepas retire memang kaya but then it won't last for about 5 years. So tu yang macam diorang pun nak yang something that is cured and sound.
We have run out of time. I'm so sorry. However, Dr. Yan and Encik Saiful is available later during when we can now come to our break. It's supposed to be 20 minutes, but we only have about 15 minutes now. So thank you very much, Dr. Yan,
You're
Encik Saiful,
welcome.
for the very
Thank you,
insightful
Cik Afa.
session. I mean,
Thank you.
I think we now know more about actual science and its role in our organization and other organizations similar to us. So thank you again. Those with the other burning question, they should be available later during the break. Do have your coffee first. Let them have a drink, and then you can ask them questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.